The following is a presentation of KSL Sports. First and 12. A total roundup of BYU and Utah football and the expanded Big 12 Conference. Subscribe to the First and 12 podcast. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio.
All right, everybody, welcome on in. It's another edition of First and 12 right here on KSL News Radio. Alex Kirry, Mitch Harper, thanks for being with us. I'm at our Salt Lake studios this week, and it's lonely because Mitch is in Kansas City, enjoying what I would assume is Kansas City barbecue. Did they feed you at the Big 12 basketball media days, Mitch?
They did. They fed us. It was not Kansas City barbecue quality, but I still got to work that in.
It was media quality. And then they just like roll out at the thing. I get it. Look, just be grateful that it was free. That's what they're telling you guys. And then, and then you have to move on from there and just give thumbs up. Mitch is going to be on his way to Iowa State and BYU matching up this weekend in Ames. We've got tons to jump into, of course, and that is where we're going to kind of get the thing started off this hour, is arguing a little bit about where our Big 12 power rankings should be. So let's jump in right here with the power rankings.
The Big 12 Power Rankings, a weekly rank of all 16 programs, from the elite to the bottom dwellers.
I think we should start from the bottom this week, Alex, and work our way up.
Perfect.
To the top. What do you say?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's roll it out quick at the bottom. 16 and 15, we know the drill. Oklahoma State's in the cellar. No surprise. No conversation needed there. 15, West Virginia, they're a mess as well. At 14, now it starts to get a little interesting. How about Arizona plummeting? Last week they were at number 10, so they dropped 4 spots after a close loss to Houston.
Yeah, and I don't know what to think about Arizona. I feel bad for them being at 14, but where else do you put them? They just continue to – they've lost games that they looked like that they were probably going to be more likely on track to maybe steal away. I mean, look, they were in overtime against BYU and led for the majority of that second half. In fact, they led since basically the beginning of the third quarter, and it was in hand, it felt like. And then they do the same thing against Houston. And to their credit, the last 2 weeks that they've lost very, very close games, the combined, record of those teams are 13-1. I mean, who would have thought with Houston, right? But at the same time, it's kind of crazy because I don't know what to think. They don't feel like the 14th team in the conference, and yet they kind of do at the same time. So I'm torn a little bit because it feels like they're playing better. I mean, their quarterback, Noah Fafita, went 24 for 26 and played his guts out, and his team didn't have a win to show for it. And so it's tough to put him at 14, but those are the breaks in the very competitive Big 12.
13, we got UCF, who just got a big win over the weekend. Scott Frost's first Big 12 win over West Virginia. At 12, Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes, they had a bye this past weekend. We got them at 12. Do you think Colorado, after a win over Iowa State a few weeks back, think they can get hot and make a run at this thing going forward?
I don't know what they are, because I was certain that they were going to go fully backward after the losses that they had. And then when Coach Prime said, I got to go get surgery, it's going to be tough, I haven't been in great shape physically on top of all the cancer stuff he's been dealing with, I thought this is too much for the team to be able to handle. Emotionally, it's a drain. They're going to lose this game big time against Iowa State. And then they get their first ranked win in I don't know how long. And it ended up being, and I don't know if it's just an emotional moment that they were able to kind of push through there. I'm hoping that they're at least competitive the rest of the way through here. Utah's hoping that that's not the case, because if they find juice against Utah, then you're getting to a weird spot for Kyle Whittingham and his program, while the Colorado Buffaloes would be working their way back up again. But I don't know. In years past, Mitch, we've said between 4 and 10 was just kind of like, they all feel like they're kind of the same. It's almost between like 3 and 13 is where we're at now, where we go, any of these teams could finish across this, because you have 3 or 4 one-loss teams. You have like 5 two-loss teams. So many teams that are 2-2 right now in conference play, and I don't know which way. At some point, some people are going to head downward, and then at another point, people are going to start going up. And so I don't know what to think about these teams right now, Mitch. I mean, honestly, it's kind of chaos right now, just like we assumed was going to happen with this league. So
that's why Brett Yormark says it's the league of the drama meter. They lead the drama meter in this conference. Number 11 and 10, it's here in Kansas City area. Kansas State at 10, Kansas at 11. Sunflower showdown, these two teams. I think both are feeling like this season's been a little bit underwhelming thus far, especially Kansas State, but an opportunity to, get hot on the second half of the season and really turn things around. But I feel like both feel a little underwhelmed to this point of the season.
I wouldn't go as far as to say cheeks, Mitch, but I do think that they are very mid. Technically very mid. I mean, literally very mid, because they're right there in the middle of the conference standings, and both of them are actually way below where they probably really belong, considering how much talent and how much expectation and coaching is at those schools. And so Kansas at 11, like you said, Kansas State at 10. And what's interesting about that is I think at Kansas State is exactly where I think that they should be moving up a little bit. They do look a little bit better, but we'll see if that is actually long-lasting. Number 9 into the single digits here, which are now at a premium, by the way. You want to get in the single digits on our power polls, you better start writing Mitch Harper nice notes, you folks across the other schools in the Big 12. Baylor 9, Utah 8, Iowa State 7. Any adjustments there? I think that's about right. I think we got that one. We got those 3 right there. Sometimes we'll say them out loud and I change my mind, but I like those where they're at right now, because Baylor, I mean, you had a matchup of the 2 best quarterbacks in the conference. I mean, from the numbers standpoint, right? Last week with Baylor and TCU, and to see Sawyer Robertson come up flat when he was the guy who was leading the country in every statistical category that matters with the quarterback side of things. He comes up flat against this team, and just as when you think Dave Aranda and his guys are going to turn a corner, they don't. Just when you think TCU is going to falter all the way, they don't. So it's definitely a league of confusing outcomes so far with this one. But Utah at 8, I think that's good. I think that's fine for the Utes right now this week. I think that's correct is what I should say, because the other teams that are above them, I have a hard time trying to put them above them right now.
Yeah, and I think that's the unique thing about this conference. Utah drops 5 spots in these power rankings after the loss to BYU, but I think a little bit factors into the health of Devin Dampier in this one as well when you're kind of forecasting the future outlook. Now, I know they said that they have confidence in Bird Ficklin, and he looked good in his opportunities against BYU, but I think the offense changes a bit without Devin Dampier, if, in fact, Devin Dampier is at all unavailable going forward. He just got banged up in the BYU game, so a little bit of speculation on that, but we'll see what goes on with Utah moving forward. 7, Iowa State, who just came off a bye week. They got the big one against BYU this week, and we'll get to that a little bit later. 6, TCU, off a big win over Baylor. That was a good bounce-back win, because it feels like with TCU, they're getting a little bit frustrated, that fan base, with Sonny Dykes at time where they weren't consistent for the last 3 years. So that was a strong performance to get back in the win column in rainy conditions last week against Baylor.
No, for sure they're getting restless with him. I don't know what to think about that team either, because they could be we assumed, and I'm going to put myself out there even more so, because I was for sure that TCU was going to be one of those teams that was going to be right there with Texas Tech at the end of this thing. And so, there's still time. Obviously, you're only 2-2 in conference play, but 2 losses feel so hard to overcome, because now you're not just fighting against your own teams in the Big 12. You're also fighting against all these pundits who are ready to just say, nope, Big 12 didn't have it still, and then write everybody off. And so, TCU's got something to prove as well. Houston at 5, and you could almost make the argument, Mitch, that they could be a little bit higher. However, the level of competition that they've been able to do it against, I just don't think we're believing in Houston yet all the way. At least I'm not, right?
Weakest schedule so far in the Big 12 is Houston.
Yes, and they're 6-1. Good for them. They're definitely moving in the right direction as a program. They have benefited from the fact that the toughest team that they've played all year so far was who? Iowa State, and they lost big to them, right? Wasn't that the
Texas Tech? They
Texas
lost
Tech
to Tech
down there in Houston by 3 scores, right? So I think that's one that you look at and you go, okay, maybe they are exactly what we think they are, which is if they start to play better teams, then they'd be a little tougher. Now we get into the controversy here, because between Cincinnati, Arizona State, and Texas Tech, one of those teams is undefeated in conference play, and it's not Texas Tech, and it's not Arizona State. Cincinnati we have right now hovering at 4. Do they deserve to get put up a little bit further, Mitch?
Like Houston, they've played a weak schedule thus far. The second easiest schedule to this point.
According to Brett Yormark, where's your metric coming from?
ESPN FPI has them as the second easiest schedule so far.
Some dumb computer, Mitch. How dare you try to put that stuff on our airwaves?
And then you dive into the strength of record. Arizona State is very comparable. They're only one spot behind. Like, I think Cincinnati is good. I think this league, like their top 4 teams, top 5 are really good.
Yeah.
That shows the depth of the conference. But I just think Cincinnati has played a light schedule to this point, and I'm kind of waiting and seeing a little bit still because the past few weeks they beat Oklahoma State and UCF, and against UCF they were outgained by the Knights, so kind of still holding a little bit on the Knights. Or Cincinnati, excuse me.
Yes. Arizona State and Texas Tech, I mean, that was a heavyweight battle over the weekend. So we have them at 3 and at 2, respectively. Tech being at 2, Arizona State at 3, even though Arizona State won that head-to-head. Fewer losses on the year are Texas Tech. And then BYU, the only undefeated team, I think, is this their first go in the number 1 spot? Yeah, Texas Tech gets knocked off of their pedestal for the first time this year. So BYU in the number 1 spot. We'll see how long that lasts for the Cougs. We'll take a break here. We'll come back. We've got more on 1st and 12 this week. When we return, let's get to some comments that Brett Yormark made at Big 12 Media Days. And we'll get to some of the things that they talk about, not just football or not just basketball, but how about football and the playoff expansion situation? We'll talk about that also. Stay with us right here. It's 1st and 12 on KSL News Radio.